Let me just turn on.
All right, testing 1, 2, 3.
Let's see here. Let's like that. Okay, we're gonna test out our mics here. Hopefully everybody can hear us. If you can hear us, go ahead inside the comments, put where you're watching from. Let me see. I see Anna's already put a question in, and we'll get to that. Let me see. I'm just going to double check our mics here because I'm not seeing any pop up to that question yet. There could be a little bit of a delay, but let me go back in here. Might get a little feedback here for a second. And it's just a bit of a delay, looks like. Yeah, there's a delay there. So we're just waiting for, wow, it's a long delay.
South Carolina.
Okay, good. So you're able to hear us. Getting a little bit here. So thanks for watching, Anna. We appreciate it. And we'll get to your question as we go through the presentation. I'm just going to make sure that there we go. You see us on there now. And just kind of testing out our, there's sound. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we're getting ready. We have about 3 more minutes to the start time. Let's see. We're going to have some announcement. James is going to kind of talk about just to let you guys kind of know what's going on here at FinerWorks, because we know a lot of you are our customers as well, and want to also make sure that you're taking advantage of the major canvas sale that's going on. It is 33% off. The email I think that went out did not have the code, which is called Major Canvas. And if you go onto our website and click View Details, the code is there. And that'll get you the 33% off on your canvas orders here. Yeah, this little part was the promo code. So we were missing that in the email, but it's here on the details. And so if you go into the FinerWorks,
that wasn't in the email.
No.
Huh.
So we let James sometimes write the emails. So, so we'll show you that in a second. Just going to give a few minutes to let people join us.
Whenever there's something that goes wrong with the newsletter, that's usually because I sent it out.
He got real excited. He wanted to tell everybody about that sale. Let me just, what I may do here is that, let me just share my screen so that way they can see that sale here. Let me see.
How's your background's blurry?
Oh, I think it was in my image settings when I first did the cam settings, right where you first enter. You can do that because normally I'm in my office, and my office has boxes and stuff behind me. So I have been just putting that on instead of a thing on there. But let me make sure I have.
So you have the virtual backdrop.
I have.
Well, I have the real one, but we're sitting next to each other.
No, mine actually isn't virtual. It's just the blur on the camera. Blur your background.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see.
Okay.
If I can get into my share screen, I guess. Where is my share screen? Let's see.
Go. Right.
Well, I have that. I'm just trying to.
Then present.
That's what I'm. Yeah, there. I think that might be it. Present screen. Okay. It's gone from no longer share screen, but present screen. Okay, we'll do this just so we can. There we go. So we do have this sale going on right now. And it is, like I said, 33% off our canvas. And this goes for all canvas, right, James?
Yeah, any stretched and mounted canvas or unstretched canvas, or even mounted, just regular mounted on like artboard. So any canvas print that you order at FinerWorks, is 33% off. Now, just keep in mind, if you order multiple copies, then the bulk discount kicks in, and I'm not sure what that percentage rate is. So it might be a little less. So you won't see the full 33% because it's combining both the
volume discount.
the volume discount percentage rate with the sale rate. So, but regardless, you'll get 33% off. Or if the volume discount is higher, then you get then the volume discount just kicks in. You get a higher discount at that point.
And it expires on Thursday, October 6th, at midnight Central Time, guys.
Yeah. So everyone kind of lucked out because we. Why do they say lucked out? Shouldn't it be lucked in?
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, so we had a lot of extra canvas. We ordered too much in September, so we wanted to. We need to. It just kind of helps us so we're not sitting on a bunch of extra inventory, which we'll end up using during Christmas season anyway. But we didn't want to. We're kind of starting to become short on space around here.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been taking advantage of it. It is going. Actually, more people than I expected are taking advantage of it. So, but yeah, it's we've had better sales, I guess, at times, but it's 33% off.
Yeah, we'll have
33% off.
Fourth quarter now, so we'll be having pretty soon our Cyber Week sales will be coming in, guys. So
those are some really good sales, and that's going to be. I don't know when is Cyber Week. Is it the last week?
It's
the second to last week.
It's right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, where's that
Monday
fall?
after Thanksgiving.
It always seems to kind of fall kind of weird.
Yeah. So I think Thursday. Yeah, it's always something about Thanksgiving after. Anyway, that Cyber Week sale will be there. You have Black Friday, and then Cyber Monday comes right after. So you'll be able to look at that. Now, before we start our presentation today, which we're going to go into strategies on raising your pricing for your fine art prints, I wanted James to kind of get some announcements out that we have here. Let's see, we did have the email outage that y'all might have noticed. We had that on our website. We sent it out in the newsletter. I believe that's now resolved, right, James?
Yeah, it's for the most part it's resolved. We're basically having to just kind of those of you with or those people watching with IT and IT background might understand the concepts of DNS and so forth. We're having to move our mail server to a different to be run on a different system. And there was shifting around of DNS, and a lot of that stuff doesn't go into effect immediately, and it's a little bit of a time-consuming process. But we're actually moving rerouting our entire website, not just the email, but the entire website. Basically, from when you first type in the web address to our servers, that route, picture it as a road, is changing, and we believe that it's actually going to be a shorter trip. So some of us have noticed actually a little bit faster.
And that includes geogalleries.com too.
Yeah, loading of the website. So, we're most of the email issues have been resolved. There's some things that happened in Florida that affected that. So a lot of people were emailing customer care at FinerWorks.com, which normally goes directly into our support ticket system. But because our email server, our main mail server was down, they were just going nowhere. Yeah. Now, some of them got, the email services will try to resend the message. So it's possible some of them did eventually get to us once we got the new mail server up. Yeah. So we're, I do know today customer service got a sudden just wave wave of support tickets, and a lot of them had come in earlier, so they have a little catching up to do. I think they've done a pretty good job, but I think they still not totally caught up, but they should be by the end of tomorrow morning, I think.
And make sure also to check your spam folders in case you're waiting on some of the emails. Some might go to your spam
If you don't get a response and you did send a message to us, say
Wednesday,
anywhere, from Wednesday, which was the date of the hurricane, up until say
this morning about 11 a.m.
and you don't get a response after about 24 hours. Resend that message to us, because it's possible it just did not get to us because of that outage time. And there was a little bit of a transition where when the new mail server came online, the old one was or for it to come online, where in some regions it may not have come online, and been accessible in some regions. But anyway, that's some of the technology stuff out of the way. The other thing I wanted to mention is we're looking at rebuilding, recreating the wheel. Post, as everyone knows, is our online setup, print online setup tools. It's an acronym for that, and we get a lot of interesting feedback about it. For some people, either love it or hate it. I think having really kind of deep dived into and been a big part of the development of that, I can see both sides of it. But one of the things we are planning on doing is coming up with a version, I guess we'd call it 2.0, or a rewrite from scratch almost. Now, we're not planning on discontinuing the current version, because I know what it's like for a software application, which basically Post is, but it runs in your browser, to suddenly everything change. The entire interface changes, and like, okay, where is this? Where is that? And it makes it really difficult. And I don't know, I don't have a timetable yet for a new version, but when the new version comes out, we're not going to discontinue the old version. We're going to just encourage any new users to use the new version. Because I know that some people just don't like change, and I can't blame them. But
we get those emails every time something changes on here. So this is the post view, and I'm just going to make sure that is what we're seeing.
But one of the reasons we're moving forward in this direction is because of changes in web technology, and the existing Post was created on not web technology that's dated, but it's not based upon the latest and where the web is going. And so we want to take advantage of tools that will make it ultimately easier and faster for application like Post to handle large amounts of data, and so forth. So that's why we're ultimately, the existing version is just going to be outdated. It's not going to be able to run effectively in newer browser versions and so forth. So we need to make sure part of it is also be able to look ahead to the future. Other things that are there's been some things that have happened in the picture framing department. Not only has it expanded, and we've added more personnel over the past, since the summer, I guess, and we're continuing to, I guess we're hiring some.
We've been doing a lot of hiring. I remember when I first started here, we only did a hiring in August to prepare for the Christmas rush.
So we're constantly. But anyway, so we're adding more staff just because and it's working because we're getting some of the frame orders out quicker. Also, we've made some changes in the packaging and shipping of large frames. Shipping framed prints has been, since I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now, when it comes to shipping, e-commerce shipping, has become it's probably the most challenging thing I've had to ship, or we've had to ship. And it's not that a picture frame, it doesn't sound like it would be difficult, but there's a lot of stress that an object goes through when you're shipping it. And it's not the impact of things against the boxes, it's the sheer torque of the item being just jostled. Some of these frames, that doesn't really affect the smaller frames or mid-sized frames, but more the big frames, and because those get real heavy when you add the acrylic glazing, because that's 1/8 of an inch thick, and it doesn't sound like much, but if you're talking like a 24 by 30 or a 30 by 40, those can weigh a lot. And some of the frame molding, especially if they order a thinner frame molding, that puts a lot of stress on the joints, which are the corners. Now, we use state-of-the-art equipment and prescribe to the what the framing industry recommends and requires. I say recommends or requires. Well, what is the norm, I guess, in any custom frame shop as far as how you join frames, but getting those joins, not the stress that those joins go through, and we're talking about the corners, can be quite a bit during shipping. So we found some methods of shipping the larger frame prints to alleviate some of that stress. And if you've ordered a large frame print recently, you've probably seen these honeycomb pads. They're these cardboard honeycomb pads about 1 inch thick, which are, you think cardboard, well, it's can only do so much. These are extremely sturdy, and they're actually the same materials used for our acrylic prints, our face-mounted acrylic prints. And as you know, those get really heavy, and so they're able to support. They're lightweight, but they're able to support quite heavy objects, and it keeps it. And the way we secure them to these sheets of honeycomb pads, they don't really shift, so they don't have that stress put to them, which the previous method had. So we've seen the damage rate drop like a rock when we adopted this method. So we're really happy about that. So that's one of the changes we made. We do have some upcoming changes, things we're working on. Cutting of the acrylic glass is a manual process for us still. We're using special cutters, but it's not, it's done by hand. So getting your cuts, if you're ordering panes of acrylic glass from us to fit some sort of custom frame, there's always a chance that it could be undercut or overcut by just a tiny fraction of an inch. But depending upon the frame that you have, it may or may not fit. Now, if you order it with a frame, it's not an issue. But if you're ordering it separate, it doesn't happen that often, but there is always a chance. So one of the things we're going to be doing is we're bringing in equipment to digitally cut these the acrylic glass and some of the other things that we cut with manual cutting means to to offer more precision.
That'd be our dye bond would be.
A dye bond, some of the Chromolux panels,
Yeah.
a custom size
That's the
Chromolux.
HD metal.
Yeah, so a lot of that stuff is going to be digitally cut, basically with a type of routing system. Also, we are looking at shifting some of our paper print cutting to automated cutting as well, which it's hard to. I'm not going to try to explain it because it's very hard to explain unless you see it. But
Maybe
cutting,
we'll have a video on that when we get it all installed.
yeah, it's cutting fine art giclée prints digitally is extremely difficult, but we have found the technology and the will.
Yeah.
but that will also alleviate some of the that'll help with the turnaround time, because a lot of times when you cut things by hand, you're not careful, especially when we're dealing with large quantities. It's very easy to damage a print, a giclée print, and so this will be more of a hands-off approach. So less likely a print's being damaged, and then have to go back through the process of being printed all over again, which can delay the print.
And there's more of a precision on that too, like just with
extremely precise. Yeah.
Just like
extremely precise. Which, when you cut a paper print by hand, there's easily about 1/8 of an inch allowance either way, just because you can't when you're cutting it by hand. But when you cut things digitally, like our cards or Kodak prints, they're going to be cut exactly to size. So so anyway, so that's some of the things we have. But those are things coming up in the future. One of the things, adding to the picture framing, the way I word it is, for years we've utilized what we've called pressure-sensitive adhesives to mount prints. When I'm talking about mounting prints, I'm talking about mounting to artboard, like a mat board, mounting prints to gator board, foam core, just a mounted print, a mounted paper print. We've been using special pressure-sensitive adhesives for years. They really bond well to the print. They providing long-lasting results, but they do have some problems. One is with the quality of the mount. Okay, it's not that you don't get a good quality product afterwards. It's just the thickness of this pressure-sensitive adhesive and the way it's applied can kind of leave a stippled effect on lighter weight, smoother papers. It doesn't give it that sleek. You lose some of that sleek smoothness. Picture like a metallic photo paper. When you mount that using that pressure-sensitive adhesive, you lose some of that smoothness. And so that's one of the problems we saw. And the other problem is, the process of applying it can potentially damage the print, leave abrasions, scratches, that sort of thing on the surface of the print. And those are things that, again, creates a problem with turnaround time. We have to frequently redo these prints. It becomes costly. So we took kind of a step back. Okay, when I say a step back, we took a step back in time to a more traditional format of mounting print. And that is using dry mount. So that's a combination of adhesive, in this case, a vacuum. So we're using especially these huge vacuum tables to mount to suck out all the air,
Mm-hmm.
apply heat and pressure to mount the print, which doesn't really apply any pressure on the surface of the print, but just causes the print to suck down right onto that surface and melts this dry mount tissue. Those of you that are art majors or you probably understand what I'm talking about by dry mount. So it's the results are phenomenal. There have been some hiccups in getting this going because of shortages we suddenly discovered with these dry mount tissue, that tissue that goes between the print and the surface it's being mounted to. But I think we're getting that resolved. But it for your smoother surface papers like the posters or metallic photo papers just does a phenomenal job. And then and this is all being done in our picture framing department as well. So so I think that's all I have before I lose my voice.
Yeah, and I know we've had a number of emails come in that are asking about when we're going to release the dates for when you have to put your your print orders and all of this stuff to get delivered by Christmas. We are aiming, normally we do that in November, but we're going to aim to have it out by the end of October, so that you guys can prepare for the holiday season. Just to know when you need to get those in so that we can do our best to make sure we get those out to your customers or to you by Christmas deadlines. So we will have those at the end of this month. Now turnaround times, we've had paper has taken appearance have taken a little longer.
Yeah,
we have new staff coming in to help us with that.
Yeah, and that's a result of this. We don't really have any control of this, but we will get a very, let's say, well-liked artist, or two or three. And I think we have a handful right now that will come in all at the same time and place these big orders. Now, we've had some things that have also helped, which has been some updates in with our Shopify app or Squarespace app to make it easier for people to bring those orders to us, integrate with us. And so we're having people that I guess that usually are used to selling a lot of prints from their stores, starting to move their business over to FinerWorks. So that's creating this little bit of a bottleneck.
Yeah.
And again, these happen in spurts at times. That
it's a little bit of like a growing pain.
I don't know if it's a growing pain. I think because it never stops.
Yeah, it never stops. I mean, we used to have it seemed like I think as more people find us, and a lot of it's interesting to see why people leave their other printers and they come to us. But it's good for us. But we take on a lot of new artists, as James is saying, that are very popular. I think I looked on their followers and they were like 149,000 followers on their Instagram. And that person has built a really good, strong following. So, this is also what we're going to be getting into tonight, is like when you want to start maybe inching up those prices to kind of help with that demand.
And I have one final thing for Etsy users, just a suggestion, if possible, use our app, okay? Because I know Etsy's very strict on orders going out on time, okay? One of the things, just placing orders manually, we're not able to know when your deadlines are. However, when you have your orders, when you transmit your orders to us through our Etsy app or Etsy import app, we will able to actually capture that turnaround time and at least try to make good on that turnaround time. So because Etsy sends us that data telling us when that order needs to ship. And so we do try to use that when we have that information, and the only way to be able to provide that to us is if you're using that Etsy app versus placing the orders in one at a time. So just something to
Is
think
that
about.
in the integration under fulfillment for us? Like with the
Yeah.
Etsy,
So if they go to where they go to import orders from the Etsy app, or import orders,
Mhm.
if they have their Etsy shop connected to FinerWorks, and they're bringing in orders that way, then it's also bringing in the
data.
the date that we have to ship it by.
Okay.
Okay. That Etsy sends that data to us. So I know Order Desk is also working on implementing that. So if you use Order Desk with Etsy to send orders to us, then we'll be able to get it that way as well.
So yeah, that's important to know as y'all get ready to kind of rev up sales for the holidays. And I know a lot of people might use manual entry for Etsy orders if they're doing like 1 or 2 orders. So you kind of suggest maybe the integration. Even if it's a small number.
Yeah, even if it's small, because it's not a whole lot different. I mean, it's a little bit faster. And once you do it a few times, it's definitely faster. So
yeah.
But yeah, so just something to think about, especially if you have Etsy orders that are, getting on that deadline, which I know happens frequently. Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and I will,
Let's
I guess,
get
get started.
Yeah.
Okay, let me share my screen again. Excuse the quick multiple windows there. So we're going to talk about raising your print prices. Okay.
I'm not seeing your screen.
You're not seeing my screen yet. Oh, okay. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Didn't select it. There we go. Let's see how this. It's just taking a minute here. It looks like there we go.
And I'm going to get up and get water every now and then because
it was too much talking for him.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about raising your print prices, and we're going to look at strategies and indicators. And sometimes I guess a lot of artists need that justification to do it. So we're going to kind of go over some things that you guys can look at. And like I said, I saw some questions were coming in, and we will hit those as we get to them in the presentation. First off, why should you raise your prices, right? One, inflation of raw materials and just inflation all around. You want to make sure that your prices are kind of parallel with that. You want them to come up. You mean, a price of gas, for instance, has not really gone down much. Transportation costs are still there, and it's rolling over to you. So adjusting for inflation is a really, big reason to go ahead and always raise your prices every year. Also, you need to go ahead and put some kind of value on the time that you've been gaining experience, right? And from where you are now, from where you were a year ago, your skill set has either improved, you found better ways to do. There's a value to that. Maybe you've learned your media better. You've learned how to, with what I see with a lot of artists is a lot of you are getting much better at capturing your art. And that is a skill set. Because we get a lot of questions for people who are trying really hard to kind of get a nice quality scan or photograph for their prints. So learning how to even make prints is a skill set.
Don't undervalue yourself. And that's what a lot of artists do, unfortunately, as they gain experience, become more, not only more well-known, but just better at their craft. They undervalue their experience. Sometimes they're just wanting sales so desperately, yes. Which I get that, but it's about having a certain amount of respect for yourself too, mm-hmm. Though. Yeah. Sales are important, but don't undercut yourself.
Yeah. There's some artists that I price for that I won't tell them the prices for the reason that we get to a booth, and as soon as someone walks up, before we even give them the price, they're like, well, for you, I'm going to go ahead and give you a discount. I'm like, you haven't even presented the price to get the objection. Why are you offering a discount? Don't undersell yourself. Sometimes I guess if you're in that habit, let somebody else sell for you because you don't want to be doing that. Not only that, and maybe this is a way to think of it, because artists have really a big heart, and I get it that you want everybody to not feel a pinch when they're paying for your art, because one, art is an emotional buy. There's so much emotion going in art buys. But don't, I think this is a good way to think about it too. Think of your collectors who've already been collecting your art. You're not doing them a service devaluing your art and bringing those prices down. Okay, you want to show that there is a reason to collect you, because the prices are going to go up, especially when you have buyers that are out there specifically looking to buy because of the value of art. They're hoping that it's going to increase over time. They're hoping that when you kick the bucket, these are going to be, expensive pieces. There's going to be value to them.
If you're bringing your prices down, you're doing just the opposite. You're devaluing your artwork. So in the eyes of collectors, like you said, they're expecting the value to go up. So don't work against them. Help them. And that, help them become collectors.
Yeah. So that's the thing too, that's, kind of benefiting the people who have been loyal to you. So by devaluing your art, you're not doing anything for them. And they've been there since the beginning to support you. So think about that. If that helps you kind of put it in that mindset where you're doing for others, then that's a good way to think about it. The people who've been supporting you, this is a way also to thank them. Adds value to the artwork. Your collectors, as we were saying, they're gonna purchase these, and it's gonna continue to grow in value. So that's why you want to show that. So that kind of goes into my third point there. We just kind of talked about that. You're also, to grow your business with purchases for new items that you may want to offer. And if you are kind of just pigeon-toed into that one little niche, that this is all you're going to charge, you're only going to charge $10 for the rest of your life on an 8x10, you're not going to have that income to try new medias, to try and neon, so and that's going to take some money for one, experimentation, and it's going to take some money to get those produced, and come up with the price point for those. So you want to make sure you're giving yourself that money to grow your business, to grow the different things that James has mentioned a lot of times on these First Tuesdays. You want to diversify your art, and that helps you do that is by increasing your prices. You also want to be pricing with your peers. If you are there with other artists that have started around the same time, and let's just think even locally within your area, and they're raising their prices and you haven't. It's just, you want to be able to be comparable. It's like you may think, oh, I'm at least going to sell more because I'm the cheapest one around. Not necessarily, it's great to be, affordable, but you don't want to be the cheapest one when you have just as much experience as your peers. So, value that as well. Another indicator thing reason you should raise your prices is you have never raised your prices or have not done it in a significant amount of time. So these are going to be some of the reasons why you should do this. Okay. And this is part of the reasons why you should be tuning in and watching this. Okay. We're going to go in indicators. And I'm going to just give a little bit of background right now. I've been working with FinerWorks for 5 years, but I came here as an artist assistant. I had researched print companies, and basically I came to put an order in, and they never could get rid of me. So I've been here, but I've stayed an artist assistant for the last 10 years with my favorite artist. I've also worked as an office manager at Art on Fifth, which is now AO5 Gallery in Austin. It was the largest contemporary gallery in Austin. And then with my artist here, I work at his gallery for street art, lowbrow art, the fun stuff that I like too. And it's a smaller gallery. So I've assisted a lot of artists with pricing. And I want to say you're not in the minority of deer in headlights when we ask for prices. I get a lot of artists who, when I ask them for their pricing, they're like, can you do it? So, you need to have that base and you want to start somewhere. And sometimes that's looking at artists that are comparable to you. I may have a very pop artist and I will tell him, maybe go look at Burton Morris, Alec Monopoly, Shepard Fairey. Let's look at their stuff. Those are the way you want to get to, right? And then let's look at some artists in your area about the same thing. We go, and I'm going to show you how I do that research in a bit. And once you find where you're at and you have your base prices, raising your prices is going to be easier. So for those of you who are new, just kind of think right now about where you want to start at and then kind of implement these as you go in your art career. And you'll be watching for comments right here. So in case we get any,
Yes.
just because I don't have it on right here. Okay. So let's look at some indicators that you should raise your prices. 6 to 12 months of consistent sales. You have done well. You've seen that it's going up. You got you're always going to be able to put in those 6 or 10 orders a day. That's a good indicator that it's time to raise your prices. High demand and you can barely keep up, right? You seem to be putting in order every few minutes and you're not getting time to maybe do originals anymore, or you feel like you're just constantly doing this. That's another time. And you can do that with am I still on? Because my thing just told me I'm showing, so I'm hoping. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you're hearing me. And I know my thing is telling me that it's trying to connect.
Your audio is coming in through mine.
That's true. So. And hopefully that's still sharing there.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this. Whoops, hold on. That was because I was sharing from my screen, and we just need to give it a second to kind of pop back up on there. Let's see. And this is the thing. Well, I can kind of go on while I'm waiting for that, and I'll just kind of be using yours. The other thing is price hikes on raw materials, as we were talking with inflation. Those are an indicator that, the materials that you're selecting for your collectors, if they're going up, you need to go ahead and take that into consideration. You're still offering quality products to your...
we lost you.
Okay. Well, I know you're picking me up on your audio there. So
try logging back in.
Let's see. It says I am connected again. Let's see. Let's go back here. Try again. Excuse me while I deal with our technical difficulty right here. Let me enter the studio. Well, you know what I just learned is I can drop out here.
Okay. Okay. There we go.
There we go. I think my blue button's on now. Let me go back into sharing my screen.
All right.
And it's thinking about it.
I think your system is freezing up.
I know. Well, probably my 30 tabs open. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what's going to happen here. There we go. So as we were saying, price hikes on raw materials, again, you're still offering that quality product, and that quality product has cost more. And your price increase, is part of that. There's also the busiest times of years when you're going to have more sales. And you can look at your last year's sales if you've been a career artist or you've been doing this a while. Go look at your sales from last year just to kind of have an indicator of what you can expect this year. How did you do in Christmas? And if you see also that maybe I want to say the same thing that we've had here at FinerWorks. We've seen a steady flow of more and more orders coming in than we did over last year. You can expect that your Christmas orders are probably going to be higher this thing. So make that price increase. Again, you want to look at your peers. If they're raising their prices, you probably want to go ahead and raise yours as well. You want to make sure that you are not, the cheapest choice. You want to make sure that you're not only elevating yourself, you're elevating your art community by doing that.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to one of the things you said, the high demand, you can barely keep up. I think that's one of the most overlooked indicators, because I will talk to artists. Melissa will talk to artists, and there's a lot of artists that wish they were in that category of, I can barely keep up. But a lot of artists eventually do achieve that. And when they achieve that, they're like, now what? And they don't know what to do. And the question is, well, one thing you can do is raise your prices. Because if you find yourself working so hard to try to fulfill orders, please your collectors, please your customers, then that's an indication you are not charging enough. Okay. And so that is one of the most, I think, or the most overlooked indicators. So yeah, when you do find yourself in that boat, that is the biggest indicator that is time to raise your prices. Because if you can barely keep up, then you're not going to be providing the service to your buyers that you should be providing, because you're just not going to be doing it as well, and you're probably going to be making less than what you could be making, even though you might be selling more because your prices are lower. You're working harder, and you're not making as much profit. So yeah, you'd be surprised at how much you can raise your prices, and still, find yourself actually making more money. So talk to professional photographers. They'll talk that, like wedding photographers.
Jim Lenders.
Jim Lenders. I mean, they're good. They're a classic example of it. They're not, artists in the classical sense per se of, like a painter or although, I guess if you include like landscape artists and, an event photographer or wedding photographer, you usually don't think in that category, but a lot of those same principles do come to play. And they are artists. Don't get me wrong. They are artists in their own right, but they are a good example of where that works, because if they're having to shoot 2 weddings every weekend, they're obviously not charging enough, because they're pricing themselves too low.
Are there any other indicators that you can think of, James, just like in business that you've done that you would kind of look out for?
Well, obviously, so when you talk about peers raising, it's kind of like when your competition is raising their prices. Artists usually don't think of other artists as competition, but the same principles do apply. Really, it's just, I think it's if you find yourself having to, for me, it's about if you find yourself having to work more, okay, then if you're having to work, if anyone goes and works for an employer, whether working at McDonald's or working at a Fortune 500 company as an accountant, for instance, generally, if they're working more, they're going to be rewarded with greater pay if they're putting in more hours. A salaried employee, maybe not, but eventually it should pan out for them. An hourly employee, the more they work, the more they're getting paid. Artists should look at their time the same way. So if you're spending more time having to handle, especially the business side of your art business, that is one of the better indicators. But I think you've pretty much covered the main ones right there.
Yeah. Well, good. So, and if anybody else, if y'all want to in the comments, if there's something that you have noticed that has been an indicator, because some of y'all have been career artists for a long time. There's some of these artists that we've worked with since you started up FinerWorks. So career artists, let us know if there's other indicators that you have seen.
Yeah, obviously the overhead of traveling and materials that, like you in the first item about, talking inflation have gone up. And the inflation rate, has over the past couple of years has gone up, is considered about 10%, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Something like that.
So I mean, if you raise your prices to 10 to 15%, just to account for inflation alone, I think would be reasonable.
Yeah. And I saw that on many of things. So we're saying, how much should you raise your prices by? And I'm going to tell you the suggestions, though, when I'm researching stuff, varies. And there's a lot of factors, just with same way with coming up with your pricing, your base pricing. There's a lot of factors in there, on there. So you want to look at everything and see what works best for you and your collectors. Like I said, many forums that I've looked at, and really what I've worked with, I've seen as many artists kind of say 10 to 15% every year on their printed goods. On their originals, that becomes a different thing. And right now what we're focusing on is going to be mostly on your prints. So on your print goods, 10 to 15% every year, because that's going to help you with, whether you're printing with us or whether you're printing with anybody else, or like I said, expanding what you offer your art on, that 10 to 15% is going to help you kind of stay up with the race of inflation. If you are in high demand and your originals are selling at high rates, you may want to do a larger bump than that 10 to 15%. Some suggest 20 to 25 on their print goods. So that is going to be, again, on how big of a jump you're seeing in your originals. I know an artist that we've had, Gabe Leonard, here on talking about some of the stuff he does. His hand embellished Jaclay canvas prints go for really good amount, more than 2 to 3 times their print process. Now he does a lot of it himself. So I would think he would have to, because that's the value of his time to do that. But that may be where you want to look at if you're seeing something happen, like maybe, who knows, you got featured on national television, or your art has been as Burton Morris. If you're not familiar with Burton Morris, he's the artist that always had that pop art in Central Perk on Friends, and that was around 94. So his art, I mean, just that exposure, that's something unreal, and it's something that isn't going to happen to everybody. But if you are lucky enough to get some kind of exposure like that, where you have now almost become, you're just really in demand, people love you, you're getting celebrity clientele, moving your print goods up is in a significant manner from that 20 to 25%, that is justifiable.
Yeah.
But add some new, either smaller size or items at some old price points. Like I said, you kind of want to think of still those people who got you there. Think about your fan. Think of your collectors and people who watch your work as your fans, and make sure you take care of them as such, and still offer something in price points that they can afford. Strategies to put a price increase in place. Okay, we are talking about the small increase on print goods annually, that 10 to 15%. You really don't have to put much of an explanation. Most people are not going to notice that 10 to 15% increase. So you don't really have to do this, I'm raising my prices kind of things.
Yeah, no grand announcement.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, I'm raising my prices.
That's something you expect every year, that
Yeah,
stuff goes up.
it's poor etiquette, I think.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if you're trying to, let's say your supplier does that because they're wanting to let you know, hey,
Yeah.
But as an artist now, that's
Yeah.
not
You don't need to do
selling
that.
to the end user now. That's not.
Like I said, large increases, but be transparent. So maybe like if you do have to do something like, again, like that lightning strike, you're on a popular show, your art is in demand. You're going to have to go maybe there's some of you who maybe were using printers that are just one step up from like a laser printer or something, and now you're going to come out with quality prints. Yes, you're going to want to say, look, to offer you a better product, you might want to be transparent then about a large increase. And give the reason, and that this is also going to be good again for your collectors. I have some pieces, like a friend of mine has Basquiat postcards.
Mm-hmm.
Quality maybe not look that great, from the 80s. I mean, he did these on the street corners and so, but their value now in the set that he has, I mean, millions, guys. So it's some people having those lower quality stuff. You actually are increasing that value too. So there's that on there. You want to let them know, I'm going to give y'all a better product, and you're going to have it's going to be cost a little more, but I want to give you guys something good. That would be when you would want to say something to your collectors. And like I said, go ahead and add items to your lower tier price range still. Like I said, when you go up, try to find some things that are, maybe more of I would guess like a commercial printing kind of thing that would be a little more novelty or something.
Yeah.
That'll be in that price range, because these people want to still support you and they want something in, their price range that isn't going to break them. You became a big star on this lightning strike, and you're on celebrities list and stuff like that. And they don't have that price point, but try to think of them and keep something there in that price point for basically your fans.
Yeah, and a lot of times with these big surge of or this when you get a sudden exposure like that, you're having all these people all of a sudden just coming in to buy your prints, and that's one of the best opportunities for you to market yourself. So that's one of those times where I think offering them something at a lower tier price range is going to make more sense from a business perspective, because you have this potential huge onslaught of business, okay, coming your way. Well, you need to fulfill the orders for those customers and make sure that that you create. This is part of creating that customer base, and that this is different than having more work than you know what to do with. When you have or more work than you can handle. That more work than you can handle part is when you've reached that state where it's constant.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit different there. So
yeah. And now the holidays are a good time to do this price increase, because you can introduce that new price increase and offer a sale or discount that has your old prices, that you're still, and people will not be as shocked as they go into the new year with those prices. And that's always a good way to kind of introduce it and give a discount that, maybe, like I said, maybe you were doing like your $10 print and you were giving a, 20% discount or something on it, and free shipping. Well, if you're adding on to it and then you bring it down, maybe you can give it a little less of a percentage and give yourself a better margin on those on a discount, and still feel like you're giving a discount um, to your collectors. So the holidays, perfect time to try this out.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, on originals, you can offer older collectors price breaks for their loyalty. So this is going to land on you on documenting your buyers. Um, I want to say I know a lot of artists who can not think of who has some of their art. You know, they're like, oh, I have no idea. You know, I have no idea who that has it. I couldn't even tell you what I sold it for. You need to start documenting, you know, your buyers, your sell price, the date. That should all be something that you're keeping somewhere on some kind of spreadsheet. Offer something, another way to kind of increase your prices and still make us affordable for your collectors is offering something like Afterpay, Klarna, which I have spelled as wrong, it autocorrected Klarna, I don't know, Klarna, PayPal credit. Those things that are good because it lets them have payment options without you having to do the, oh, let me run the person's card at this time, and making that awkward call like, hey, I have to do. I do not recommend doing layaway for yourself. It's not fun, and it sometimes it kind of creates a negative experience between that relationship that you're trying to, you know, create with your collector. So let some third party like that kind of help with the payment options. And again, it still makes it affordable. Like I am a art junkie, and I can say I use these like no tomorrow when I go to anything to go buy some art. If it's available, I'm going to use that and definitely buy something a little higher price ticket than I probably would have. Instead, maybe I would settle for a $30 print. I might go ahead and look at buying one of the originals and doing that. So this is a great way also to transition maybe some of your print buyers to original buyers as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. People are a lot of times people are less scared away by the price if they see something like the Afterpay or Klarna or
yeah,
PayPal credit. Um, so yeah, pushing those definitely can be beneficial.
yeah, and then like I said, it softens the blow when you're
Mhm.
increasing prices, and
Yeah.
especially when you do a price increase like that. I want to say even when you do one of the bigger ones, like a 20 to 25%
Yeah.
increase, and then you offer something like that on top of it, and it's going to make it affordable still, and they're going to be able to support you and feel like they got a fair price. Everything's work. It's just a win-win for everybody. And I think a lot of people ask with this is, will I lose customers? You could. I mean, there's like I said, there you're going to probably maybe lose some people who say this is really out of my price range now. I really have all of this other stuff I got to pay for. But you also will gain new ones as your art seems to be increasing in value. You're going to draw attention,
Mhm.
so you're going to have this new wave of supporters coming in too. So don't be too worried about the customers you do lose on this. Trust me, a loyal customer is going to stay loyal. They will find ways, especially if you make that payment option available for them. Uh, so this is going to be a great way to have, you know, customers still feel loyal. They still feel appreciated, and you're more than likely going to keep that base.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we've had to do it's just part of business. We've had to do some price hikes on some stuff,
Yeah.
and we tried not to do it at all.
Yeah, we try not to do it at all. Of course, our accountants say, you know, get a little upset that we don't.
Yeah.
But every year I was like, well, you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bottom line is at some point, even companies like us were forced to raise prices as in the paper prices have gone up, just have skyrocketed. Commodities, certain commodities have skyrocketed. Paper is one of them. Wood has as well. transportation costs, and these are global markets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and many of the materials that we buy do come from overseas, so just getting that stuff to us has gone up so much, and we've taken a huge hit just to try to keep in the attempt to try to keep our prices down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're not raising the prices at the rate that that we should be. So, and we're holding on
Yep.
as long as we can with that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I do want to kind of caution artists, and they've probably that might be why we get such an onslaught of new customers.
Yep.
Over the past year, is just because so many of our competitors have raised their prices to match what others know. Of course, we buy a lot more, and so we're able to negotiate better prices than
Mm-hmm.
many of our competitors. But still, it's it's not.
And you see it happening. I see it with smaller print companies where they had to close after it, and because it's expensive. It's really expensive maintenance on these printers, and then just materials and then shipping, which is always an issue. So you'll see that happen. We've seen it happen in our industry. But like I said, when you're raising these prices for you, it's going to go ahead and again, offering stuff at other price points. I think when we've done price increases, we've tried to find other alternative media that we can keep kind of at a price point that was comparable for a lot of people.
I think if there was a such thing as a business license for us, they would have taken away my business license because of not raising prices.
The perk of being it's Crazy James's sales. So we have those. But raising your prices also, it may open you up to galleries who will want to know at what price is your work selling, which opens your work to a new market. Because a good gallery is curating the buyers for you. When you're in there, sometimes you have your own customer set that when you're selling in a gallery. And you want to be able to offer them fresh artists that are coming up, emerging artist works. And they trust you for that. And when you're coming in, and if we start to see, oh, well, there's this guy on the scene, and now it's great because you can use Instagram and be everywhere and check out different markets and different artists. When you see somebody like emerging artist that has some price going up, it's great. What it hurts some people, and I've seen some artists do this, is they get their stuff in a gallery and then something financial happens and they get on their Instagram and start selling paintings for like $100. And you have galleries who are representing you at $1,200.
They undercut their own galleries.
And you will get blacklisted. I will tell you this, galleries do talk, we do share that information. So you don't want to be doing that. That's why I'm telling you, when you start setting these prices up and increase, you do not want to start coming down.
It's like the manufacturer that sells direct but also has distributors.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest no-no in business in that kind of scenario, which is the same sort of situation, is you do not underprice, undercut your distributors.
Yeah.
Because then you will lose distributors. Your distributors won't, because no one will buy from your distributors. They'll buy direct from you. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want them to buy direct from you, and you don't want distributors, which in this case is your galleries, then go ahead and do that. Mm-hmm. But it's always nicer to be sold by a network of galleries than having to do all the work yourself.
It is, like I said, especially like I said, when you get into that groove of
some success.
You really want gallery representation to take care of that. And
it's going to be tempting. I know it's going to be really tempting, and you have to make a decision. Do I want to continue? Do I want? and some artists will open up their own gallery and represent themselves.
Yeah.
You've
I work
worked
for one.
with one like that because he's comfortable and he doesn't want to be limited by galleries. Okay. And that's a sound business decision. There's nothing that says you have to be represented by a gallery.
Yep.
Open up your own gallery.
Yep.
Represent yourself. A lot of artists do that because they want to be able to control their destiny.
Yeah.
And there's that's a whole nother
it is
topic of the pros and cons of being represented by a gallery.
It is
maybe we should talk about that.
I can totally give that scenario from so many different angles.
We'll talk about, maybe we'll look at that coming up.
We can have that next one. Yeah. Let's see. I put on here, but if you think your collectors if you think of them as your fans and know their means, as long as you offer something again in their price range, you're going to retain them. You do little things for them. I see there's artists I like watching that through the pandemic that started doing lives where you're watching them paint, but they were really giving, I don't know if anybody remembers the MTV Unplugged, the Storyteller series of it. They're telling you how they wrote these songs and watching artists kind of telling you why they're painting this, how they got, into this media choice. Maybe they started in oils and now they're in acrylics. And there was just a really enchanting thing of watching these lives and watching somebody give that story of it, like they're talking to you like you're a friend, and having those kind of little opportunities available keeps that customer. You just got to work on how you're going to retain your customer base, and sometimes it's doing little personable things like that, and that's hard, I know, as artists, because sometimes you really just want to be in this like cut off from the world thing and just in your studio doing your own thing, listening to your music and nothing coming in. But again, open yourself a little bit. I mean, I know a lot of you, when y'all are out at fairs and you talk to your collectors, y'all talk to them like old friends. So just have that same kind of conversation. I know it's a little awkward sometimes because you don't have that back and forth immediately, but the way we've been doing this with you guys, with the chats, have that on there and ask them to chat with you. And sometimes maybe even having an assistant or somebody or family member around who's reading off the comments for you, that can help. And just, again, something to add that personable touch to offer something to your fans.
Yeah. Having a personal relationship with your buyers is incredibly important. I mean, we at FinerWorks, we try to have that with our own customers. And
considering we serve across the world.
Yeah. Our Old Breathing Color rep asked me last week, kind of to brag about ourselves, I guess, says, how many artists do you think you have a year using FinerWorks? And so I was like, I don't know. I said, let me go count. And so we actually pulled the numbers from our database, and I was shocked to find over the past year, just this year alone, we 8,000 new artists.
That's a
little bit over, actually. So I say 8,000, a little bit over 8,000. And it doesn't feel that way because we engage with these people, and we talk with many of these over and over again.
Yep. And
it doesn't seem, you think, 8,000, how you can keep track of that? We do have systems help us keep track, but yeah, it's but we do like to have almost a kind of a one-on-one relationship. We don't have a whole lot of people walking in to FinerWorks into our lobby every day because we're more nationwide. But when they do come in, it's a very personal relationship that we have with these local artists and photographers that come in with us, and it's from our perspective, it's in their perspective, it's great to have that relationship. And I think artists have to have that relationship with their buyers as much as possible. Obviously, when you get into these larger numbers, it's it becomes more and more of a challenge. But try to find ways, and there's there are ways to help you do that, from software and to assistance and so forth, to be able to create that kind of personal link with that buyer.
And just as I mentioned before, art is an emotional buy. It really is. That's how come, honestly, with we're going to get back to your question. You're asking, is there a formula? That is part of the reason that art actually does have a hard time coming up with a formula. There's so many different factors that you have to kind of figure out your own sort of formula to price things.
Yeah.
But there are bases, like I said, prints are a little easier because you can start with, how much you spent for this right here. And you can kind of go off of that product and do 2.5 times, 3 times, whatever you want to do for your print.
For the print.
Yeah.
And then for the frame, you might not charge as much.
Or you might charge more.
Yeah. One of the things to keep in mind when developing your own formula with prints and frame pieces is that typically your biggest margin is going to be in the print. Okay.
Exactly.
You're going to have less of a margin in the frames. Now, if you're ordering frames from us, you could possibly have a pretty substantial margin. But if you're taking your prints to a custom frame shop to have them framed, and you're going to spend a lot more for the same frames that we offer and we produce,
and more, and you're a lot of your time.
And a lot. Yeah. So you want to kind of keep that in mind, is that the frames can potentially eat substantially into your price point, into your margins. If you're buying cheap frames from Walmart or Michael's, Amazon, just keep in mind you don't do so, and you might be able to, improve your margins, but you also do so at the risk of cheapening your artwork too, because if it's a cheap,
I think of them almost like, if I use
Walmart
like that,
frame,
it's like, to me, it's a presentation folder. It's when I go with a cheap frame, I'll tell somebody, you can go get, this is the print size if you need to get your own custom mat and everything. I mean, I have a $25 silkscreen poster in an $1,100 frame and it was funny because this was my older gallery that I worked at, and that was my employee discount.
Yeah.
That when I started at FinerWorks, I hadn't gotten my employee discount yet here, that I didn't realize when I was paying the retail. I didn't realize that. I thought I was getting my employee discount because I knew what those molding
the
companies
regular pricing
compared
to.
And let me tell you,
and it's the same moldings that.
Yes, we carried the same moldings. Like I love Larson Joel. Universal Art Quality has certain, and so I have in my head what moldings I want, and that. Like I said, that's one thing I like about the FinerWorks. I tell a lot of geo gallery artists, if you want to, like, you honestly cannot think of a framing thing, go with an Alta black. If it's over 16 by 20, go with the wider, thicker Alta black. I say if you can't go conservation control, at least go with the non-reflective, because it's presentation. Put a mat in there. And what do you call it? And sell it, because that is going to be universal. It's very contemporary looking. If somebody has, stuff with blue bonnets, I may suggest something else. But for the majority, a contemporary frame like that with non-reflective there is great. And let's, from that, you can go ahead and say, this is how much it costs. And I'm going to tell you, kind of, again, go do some research. Look at what FinerWorks on our, basic black moldings with a white, map in there for your art, and then go to a custom framer and do that. And then it's going to take you sometimes 30 minutes to sometimes an hour with a framer there that's going to want to go through all of your choices. So that's got an hour or 30 minutes of your time. What is that value to your customer? The other thing is, if you offer custom sizes that are not traditional frames, they're going to have to go get a custom frame. Sometimes making that available is just, you're saving them the work, and there's a value. I always tell people when they ask me when I pay for something, it's the convenience. Okay, I value my time more, and this convenience is worth the charge I'm paying. I also like the artist aesthetic. I like their, their design touch on this particular frame, and then from there, when you find who you're going to choose to do your framing, you can go look at your markup, what you want to do. If you want to be, I want to say, like, if you go look at, what do we call the major, what's the term for like major frames companies in the hobby stores, in the arts and crafts box,
big box stores.
Big box stores.
Yeah.
When you go look at them, that there's a reason they give you those 50% discount coupons every week. And that's because they really can, they buy in bulk too. So
they also use a strategy of marking everything up higher than they normally would. So they're technically they rarely sell at those higher prices. Their real price is what that coupon gives you.
Yeah,
that's the real price.
Yeah, because they know that's where you're going to cut.
Yeah,
now
so that's what
they get a few of the people who are like, okay, I'll just pay it.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, me. Like I said, because you don't want to look up for the coupon.
I forget the coupon.
Yeah.
I forget the coupon.
But look at those. You're going to have to do some research on it. And like I said, I am an Excel junkie. I love spreadsheets. You want to do that with your frame stuff, just much like what we're going to do here. Instead of artists, you'll do something like frame companies and kind of try to be similar. See if you can find the same molding to kind of compare to, and build your thing. Now, in custom frame places that you may go up to in person, they may offer glass, but they should offer a plexi option too.
And that's another topic of conversation, but just real briefly is the plexi. It may seem like to cheapen the print some. It really doesn't. If it's a good quality, if it's at least an eighth of an inch thick, it's not gonna appear cheap. There's some reasons why, like, we don't offer glass. I mean, we would if we could, but it's just not practical to ship. Prints with glass. But if you feel that your print needs to be behind actual glass, then you're likely going to need to find a local custom framer to do it.
Yeah.
Most of the majority, I think the majority of online printing and framing companies are doing acrylic glass just because of the breakage rate. No matter what you do, it's going to get broken.
Not going to get there.
And and even if you're I think artists selling at shows don't like to do glass
because it
transporting. It's just such a
I'll tell you, for some artists that I've worked with, they had like it's again that cheap glass that comes in the cheaper frames, and it breaks like
that's very, very thin.
Yeah.
Extremely
so
thin.
What we have done too is just like you're saying, ordering like the acrylic just to this, and I would switch it out from those cheap frames and like at least keep this, and I would go with the reflection control.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I was a frame junkie on wanting museum conservation glass when I worked at the gallery, because I had that and I love that, just a clear look. But then I ended up here and I saw this and I love it because transportation, moving, storage. I'm somebody who switches out my artwork at home and storing it and bringing out new artwork and stuff that's behind frames. It is just a lot better for me as far
dealing
as
with handling a 20 by 30 sheet pane of glass is a lot different and a lot more nerve-wracking.
Yes, it is.
The same size, same thickness, same appearance of acrylic.
I remember when those used to come in when I worked at the gallery, and those big sheets come in and you're like, oh my God, especially if it's museum glass, because museum glass is crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But let's look at, like I said, you want to kind of look at people in your peers that are comparable to you. And I kind of have, like, I call it a research model now for the social media age, because you're not limited to just going to see your peers in local galleries, pop-up shows. We have, a lot of us now, especially after the pandemic, have moved to selling online. So you really got to be inclusive of what's selling online. And I'm going to see, I know this one was going to be a little harder. So let me stop share here and share another tab so you can see this just a little bit better. Let me go in here, present, screen. Let me see. Let's go into Windows. I don't know why it's not showing that one. Okay. Oh, I have it open here. There we go. It's a tab. Okay.
Now you gotta.
Yeah, I got to come back over here and share it. Present. Let me find that tab. I wanted to do a screen, but every time I do it, it's that long.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a little closer so you guys can see it a little bit better. So I would take, let's say, my artist here, and I'll look at his style, and I'll look at some other artists, like ones like I said, you want to get up to. So here's, Burton Morris, Alec Monopoly, and then another local artist, Rigo, not quite on the same years of experience, but past emerging. Rigo is amazing. And has his own artist-run gallery as well. But again, not the same years of experience. I'll go look at, see where they're based out of, and I'll either find that through their website or their IG handle profile will say where they're out of. I write the IG handle, and then I'll go by followers and kind of look at what they have. I want to see where their selling platform is. Some people will have multiple selling platforms, but you'll see the primary ones. It's usually their website. So I'm like, okay, here's their website. And then I start to go look at originals, and I'll say, okay, well, we do 48 by 60s. Let me see what the larger paintings are going for. So say we price it some at 1,800. And if I went over and looked at Burton Morris, some of his originals start at, 10,000. But again, like I said, he started at the same time, but had that national exposure on a popular sitcom weekly for, I think that show ran for 10 years. So that gave him on. There's also a new one that I see, Alec Monopoly, which I still cannot find his original prices. So I'll probably keep searching that because he's probably being represented now at this point.
I'd imagine that they're pretty.
Yeah, Alec
Monopoly.
Yeah, they're pretty high. I have to be pretty high because he does a lot more murals. And there's one in Austin that he now is at.
Even his prints are.
Mm-hmm. So very high. And you got, and looking at that, like I said, now here with Burton Morris, this is something I looked at. He had the Friends anniversary. It's a poster print on there, and it's $250. You see what I say about keeping a price point for those fans that brought you up? That's a good example right there. And then you go to some of his other prints that are maybe in the 16 by 20 or bigger range, and they are 3,500. And some of them are made out of wood. There's certain special editions. This is where you start to see limited editions go up like that. And they're able to kind of command the more than what the print is probably costs them to make. So
Robert does more open editions. Though,
yes, he does more open editions.
I know his prints go for higher than that.
Yeah, we'll do some that will be special because we do like Robert will do some that are maybe he's tweaking, doing other things for. So yeah, some of those are there. But if the ones that we have on our website that are just, here,
that's because
they're open edition. We're just gonna have them sent out. We'll keep them in that price range on some of the things that's 45 to 65. But you're looking at our area too. And Robert does that. He does more pricing for the San Antonio area rather than a national thing. So that's to say and that may change once I show him numbers. So that's one thing too, is like talking artists up on their prices.
But yeah, you're talking East Coast art, East and West Coast artists versus
Yes.
more centrally located artists.
Exactly.
Definitely tend to
And
bring in
also
a higher rate. Just
where they're showing too.
Yeah.
Alec Monopoly showed in Beijing and stuff like that. So, you know, again, you want to look, I call them aspiration artists that you look at, like where you want to get to, just so you have an idea. Like, you know, when I worked at Art on Fifth, we have one of the artists that actually brings a lot of people in is Dr. Seuss. So we sell Dr. Seuss prints, you know, they're Jaclay prints. And we would have some local artists that would be like, well, that thing's going for $25,000 and this is a lot bigger. I want to put it at $25,000. Well, people don't know your name like they know Dr. Seuss. And it's a long time in collection. Like, I mean, like I said, people know those
and Dr.
editions.
Seuss, I don't think he's alive anymore.
No, not anymore. Actually, his wife passed away not too long ago too, Audrey. But yeah, they still have their publishing company that takes care of all of these things, and his collectors love all of those pieces that come out. They know that they are going to sell well, so they buy them as investment art, and that's part of it. That's another collector base. There is people who do investment art. So it's like I said, aspiration artists that you kind of want to grow into their things. These are where you want to watch what kind of business plans they're putting into place. Sometimes when people are asking for how do I do it, sometimes it's best to look at somebody who's already done it and see what they are doing, how they're you know, how they're getting themselves shown, where their pricing has increased. If you're somebody who's followed them, you keep a thing like this, and right here I have the date on the followers, but I also have a date here now when I recorded their prices. I may go look at this again next year, just copy it and paste it, put the new date, and give in the new numbers. And again, I'm going to see what kind of percent they're bumping up at. So this is why you kind of want to keep a little research spreadsheet like this, because you want to be able to go ahead and see again what your peers or competition, however you want to look at it, is doing. And it's amazing to see. Like I said, I look at this, I don't think of it either as competition. I'm just, again, like aspiration, like, wow, that is an amazing thing. I'm really happy for them that they're able to get there. Would I like to be able to sell my artist at that amount? Yes, I would love it. That would make my commissions amazing. But did we get a comment in?
No.
Okay. Oh, we're getting closer
Yeah, we're
to
getting
thing.
closer.
Okay. And we are about almost done. So let me stop sharing this. But again, something like this, it'll help you guys kind of keep those thoughts and everything. As the years are going, it's going to be something that's going to help you track. So let me stop share that. Where is it? There we go. And let me see. I think the next ones are tips from other artists. So we'll just go through this really quick. Let me show back again. Okay. All right. Okay. So tips from other artists. Like I said, in doing all of these, I love artist forums, things where I can talk to other people, other dealers selling art. It helps me. If you're not constantly learning, you're going to be left behind. You need social media. I'm constantly learning, and this I'm constantly learning is with selling art. Once you increase your price, like I said, most everybody's going to tell you do not decrease them. Okay, you can do sales, but don't decrease your prices. Keep your base thing there. You decide through experimentation what your levels are. So, like I said, there's not going to be a set formula for everybody, because some people might have a weird, bolt of lightning exposure on a sitcom. Some people may have to work there. It takes them longer to produce the art. Maybe you're somebody who is producing art in a month and it takes longer. You're going to have to go ahead and kind of experiment on what levels are going to work for you. Having to raise prices because sales are good is always better than having to lower them because you set them too high and sales are either slow or non-existent. So just kind of think of those little things on there, and that's going to help you with it. And for the resources that I used on here, like I like his blogs, I love his podcasts when they're out on there. Artbusiness.com. Alan Bamberg, he is writes all those articles and blogs and stuff, but he's also a consultant. You can hire him. I believe his rates start about $75 an hour, and he's based out of San Francisco. And he helps artists too. He helps collectors, dealers, kind of do the pricing. So sometimes paying for that consultation to kind of help yourself with that. If you're really deer in headlines, getting somebody with that kind of experience will help you kind of come up with your prices and knowing when you want to go ahead and increase them. Now, a lot of artists, I want to say, do not have that business savvy side. The Clark Hullings Foundation.org, they offer conferences and training for artists in business and how to do your business plan, your strategy, because that's going to help you. That really is. And sometimes it just gives you that validation. I look at these things because I know what my thoughts are on something. And I still go to these sources just to get that validation that, yes, okay, that's logical. It makes sense. I see other peers doing this in their pricing. I see other peers doing this in their sales. Those are some really good resources that you're going to have. And if you need any of those, I'll make this presentation available on our YouTube because you're going to be able to watch it again on the replays. It's about 15 minutes and it uploads on YouTube. I'll make a link to this presentation if you want to get these on there, and I'll go in and put these links also in the description. So now you just want to tune in on Thursday. We have Jim Landers, we're going to continue on sales. And it's
we're going to continue with this theme, but he's going to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
He's going to be talking
sales for people who don't like to sell.
Yeah.
And that is a lot with artists. And I really want a lot of you guys to get into this as we get close to the holidays. Why I picked October as we go into fourth quarter. I wanted to have some of these selling tools for you guys to make some good sales during Christmas. You benefit and we benefit because you're going to put in more print orders. So tune in Thursday. That's 4 o'clock, 4:30, 4 o'clock.
No, 4 o'clock.
Right?
4 o'clock
to 5:30
Central Time. Yeah.
And you can just go onto your FinerWorks.com, your account dashboard. We'll have a link there, or just log in to YouTube.com, go to our channel and subscribe and hit notify, and you'll get the notification there. If there aren't any other questions, we're gonna. And did we have another one?
Yeah, just talking about wanting to get some info on the pros and cons of gallery representation.
Oh yeah.
And how to get the representation, and so that's definitely a topic that I think we can talk about. I'm not sure what we have planned for next month, but if
it's open, we'll do that.
Yeah, we can.
And it was one we tried to have, but our last gallery person wasn't able to make it. But
we really go into the pros and cons. I think that's something that
there's a lot of
I think so many artists think getting represented by a gallery is there's a pro to it, and we hear from artists all the time, all excited about getting represented by a gallery.
And then they realize
the greatest thing in the world. But then in some cases it works for a lot of artists, but then there's times where it might not.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
We'll
try to go into that next month if we can.
Yeah.
If not, we'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, thanks you guys for joining in. We appreciate it. We appreciate your questions and comments. And if you have any other questions, you can email me, Melissa@FinerWorks.com, and I will be glad to help you as best I can.
All right.
Bye,
everyone.
Bye, everyone.